Bob Hughes. I'm a senior partner and I head up the practice area for leadership development as well as being an executive coach. I really like business, the business mindset, how those things work. Delivering results, what is that and what does that mean? It's actually the central thing of what you're trying to achieve. We all have or should have a good set of goals and objectives. Whatever that main thing is that you need to achieve, those are your results. And that's what we've got to make sure we deliver. Here's a very powerful distinction. A lot of us are action-oriented. What you want to make sure is that your action is actually directed towards the results you want. Because in the end, this may be tough. There actually is a scoreboard. And it's not about effort in the end. It's about that you achieved what you're trying to achieve. So somebody could say, I was busy all week. But if we go back to those three things that you should be trying to work on, did you make progress against those? And ultimately, are you hitting those things? That's what results are. So, delivering results in an urgent world. I think we could write a book on that one. When you think about what you have going on, if you can look at what are my priorities, and there's kind of two levels of priorities I'd like to get into. One is I have a set of things and I'm in a sense just putting them in the right order. We'll call that first level of priorities. You do want to step back and look at that though and say, I've got to keep thinking about the results I'm trying to get, because even on those priorities, you have choices of how you go about it and how you're going to achieve things. And let's face it, in the urgent world, you have a lot coming in to you, so you got to figure out what's the best way to respond with that. The second level of priority is, this may be a tough one. We actually all have limited time. Believe it or not, time is actually limited. So think about this when you go talk to your manager. What you should be doing is, I'm going to talk about A, B, and C, not X, Y, Z this time. You should be making that choice. Now, your boss may guide you, direct you in what you need to do, but you should really have a results lens on what you're doing. Think of this. If you could start off every week, or maybe you do it at the end of the prior week, what plays are you going to call that are going to make sure you get closest to your results? I'm going to put them in three buckets. One is using your time. Another, this is a big idea, adjusting your actions, and then SMART goals. So using your time well, it's common sense, not common practice. So really look at where you're spending your time, maybe even a little bit of a time audit. If you think about this new lens that I have, delivering results, start looking at, are all the things you're doing directed that way? Now, of course, you may have some, quote, administrative items. You want to do those things as ruthlessly, efficiently, quickly, and when you need to do them. Don't get a backlog going there, right? But the central idea is, how are you using your time? We all can make some adjustments because my actual and my should can be quite different, especially over time. Things get out of whack. The other is SMART goals. So this is an acronym. There are a couple of different definitions, but one is it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. If I'm just kind of doing stuff versus are they SMART, it's kind of a nice acronym, you'll actually be spending your time better if you get them in the SMART framework. Little bit of caution on it. I've also seen some people way overdo this, and there's a little bit of judgment of when maybe you need to make it more specific, but at some point you've got it specific enough, because then you got to be able to run with something. The last one here is adjusting your actions. This is a really big idea. So if you think about in any day, you have a set of things that you're going to do, whether they're on your list or not. You actually spend, turns out everyone spends their day, each day goes by. You should look at, here's my goal, here's what I thought I should be doing on this. Do I need to make an adjustment? Making adjustments is the key. Don't just keep doing it the same way. Maybe we need, if I'm getting a bunch of requests, say, from different people, but I know them, and I realize I'm not getting everything I need. maybe you should put together a set of questions, scoping questions, if you will, that you're going to have at the ready when you get that call or there's an email or someone steps by your office, or if you're in the field and someone kind of hits you in an ad hoc manner, you're like, hey, I want to help you out with that. Let's go through these 10 things I need. That could be a real aid to help you. Almost any capability that we could talk about, there's always a set of failure modes and obstacles around it. One thing here is figure out what are your results blockers, because we could talk to 10 people. We're all going to have a very different situation. And we're also we have our own styles and approaches. So you want to really understand what is it that may be getting in your way of results. One, we've already mentioned email. This is a very common one. You'll see from some people, they'll send these very long things. That's really hard for the person on the other side to process. If I have a results lens on, what I should be thinking is, what's the best way to answer this so they get the information and I'm actually directing things to my results. Here's another good one with results. We may have to bring in the concept of 80-20 thinking, kind of Pareto's rule here. And that idea is, if you think of a curve, if this is your result you're trying to get at, and here's time, if we go like this, these things always have a steep curve when you're working on things, and then there's this long tail. That's the perfectionism out there. 80-20 says 20% of my input can get me 80% of my output. Now, it's not always 80-20. Maybe I have to put in 40 to get 80. The point, though, is I can get a long way with certain actions. Now, here's kind of the graduate level of this. We got to be careful. There are certain things that really need to be perfect. Your surgical instructions, for instance, or if we're a university with a graduation announcement, every word on that graduation announcement needs to be perfect. But what we want to watch is there are a lot of things we work on, they don't need to be perfect. Maybe instead of making something perfect, you need to show someone a draft to get the concept out before I spend hours and hours and hours and hours polishing something that's going to be dismissed in 3 seconds. It'd be better to work in a different mode. So one of the failures is if I've got a perfectionist streak, which has some good tendencies about it, you really want to look at what is needed on this job and then do it as efficiently as possible and as effectively. One key thing to make sure that you're doing, and some of these things when you hear them, you go, well, of course, but then when you really look at it, so a lot of us will put together a daily action item list, good practice. When you have a project or initiative, look at what you can do that actually completes it. So it's not now just another hanging action item. At a small level, this is crossing things off your list, and I think we all still love to do that, even if you do it virtually. I'm talking a little bigger sense, though. You have a goal or objective, it's a project, it's an initiative, maybe you got to get that proposal out, or is that presentation you got to get done, or there's a job for a client, it's not done. Look at what do I need to do to complete this, and then push that thing right over the goal line. Here's a nice general technique that you can use. When you're building a capability, maybe you have a colleague, they're really good at delivering results. Observe what she's doing. Maybe it's the way an objective is set up, it's the way it's executed, it's the way she's communicating about it. You can observe all that. The other thing is you can also observe when some of us are really struggling. You could have a colleague that's not really hitting results, and you'll notice they keep talking about effort. Effort is not the results. This is one of those, we do want to recognize effort, and we've got to hit the results at the same time. A role model is somebody that is just really good at it. And there's a couple of things. You can observe them, but maybe you can go talk to them. It's really interesting. I had a client at the C level, and people around this person were always, how do you always get those 3 things done? It turns out he was really doing a prioritization. He was very thoughtful about what he said outwardly that he was going to do. So he may have 10 things on his list and what he was thinking, but he would talk about the 3 or 4 and then actually deliver on those things. There are other of us that what you end up talking about is like all 10, and it feels like none of them get done. That's not actually a good results focus. So if you have first identify your role models, they're all around you. Observe them. I'd encourage you, go talk with them. Find out what she does about it, what she thinks, how she communicates, and how she acts. That's a nice model there. Think, do, say.